What's up, minasan? My name is Kaito Streets. I'm a professional fencer on the Japanese national fencing team, and I also participated in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And today, we are reacting to fencing on the internet. So I've been fencing for over 20 years now, and I can say I know quite a lot about fencing. And today I'll be reacting to a popular Netflix show called 25 and 21. And in the past, when I seen fencing scenes in movies or shows, they actually depict it very incorrectly. And so I'm very interested in seeing if this show gets the movements of the fencing, the rules, everything about the sport of fencing correctly. So this will be my first time watching the show and reacting to it. So hopefully they get the sport right. I'm interested. It looks like she is picking up an umbrella, trying to fight. There's like a group fight going on. And I've done this, I've picked up umbrella. Anytime I pick up an umbrella, I hold it like a saber myself. Realistically, I don't think it's very effective in a fight, because even though you can hit them quite often, it's not going to be a devastating hit. It's more like little taps. Our motives isn't to hurt the person. We're trying to hit him so we can score a point as fast as possible. She actually does something quite interesting to test her accuracy with her saber. She has her coach throw her an apple. When it's in the air, she tries to stab it with a saber with a lunge. I actually did something very similar with a banana back in the day. That was kind of my first viral video of fencing, and trying to imply it in terms of like real life, not a situation, but like a fruit ninja situation. This is actually a very cool way to train, right? You're trying to see if you're accurate enough to hit something in midair, but there are some inaccuracy in terms of you can actually stab an apple with a saber. The tip is not sharp. It is very round. It's rounded, as you can tell. That's so we don't penetrate the skin of our opponent. If you do it with a very quick, speed of a fencing movement, I don't think you can penetrate an apple. So that's why when I did it with my banana video, one, banana is softer, and two, the blade I used was actually broken. So it was actually sharp. So I was able to stab the banana. And so I'm not saying what she did is impossible, but it's quite hard to do. So now we move on to where you actually see some actual sparring, you would call. So far, watching it, the equipment they have is real fencing equipment. I know the brand. All the uniform looks good. They actually look like fencers. The equipment at the gym looks like all very similar to what a fencing gym could look like. But this scene right here, before they start the match, in fencing, when you hook up, you test your opponent. They actually tested each other. The light went off. That's very accurate. We test your opponent, make sure your lights on, your equipment's working, they're working. But afterwards, when you get on your line, you're supposed to salute your opponent and the referee, which is kind of just like signaling your referee and your opponent by doing this movement. They actually didn't do it. You tend to see people not do it if you don't like your opponent. You salute them, show them the respect, which you should do every time. But in this scene, there's some tension, so they didn't salute each other, which is quite interesting. So it's going to be a good match. And they actually, say the proper fencing terms. In fencing, we have a phrase called en garde, prêt, allez, which is a French term saying, get ready, prepare, go. And they actually say it, which is pretty cool. The en garde, like the position of the fencing, the movement, they're pretty accurate. Is the speed as fast as what we do? No, but this is one of the most accurate fencing moves I've seen in a TV show or movie. They tend to take off their mask quite often, which we do that too, but in practice, You want to keep practicing. Taking off the mask would kind of annoy the referee. But yeah, you want to show the pretty actress's face, right? So, oh, this is quite interesting. So a lot of times, like girls, you have to have your hair in a ponytail or not flowing out of the mask. And so in this scene, the other girl tells her she needs to fix her hair. But in fencing, a lot of times, if you're struggling or you need time to like get air, you know, a breath or two, girls tend to take off the mask and start doing their hair, even if it's not messy, which is a fair thing to do, you know. But if you do it too often, the referee will kind of get mad. But I like the fact that they show that in the show, you know. That's a very much of a thing. And I love the screaming. It sounds very, you know, what you hear in fencing. Once we get a point, you want to release some tension.
Girls scream too?
Oh yeah, the girls. Some girls scream a lot more than the guys. The thing I like about this point is before she scored her last final attack, she's going forward, but she's not doing the same movement. Step forward. She's actually, you know, jumping a little bit, going fast, slow, jumping back a little bit. She's incorporating a lot of speed change, which is very accurate in saber. You know, you're not supposed to be a robot going 1, 2, 1, 2. You're supposed to go fast 2 steps, 1 slow. Just create awkward, unpredictable movement for your opponent, so the opponent can't predict when you're gonna accelerate an attack. She actually does a very good feint cut, which is a fake to one target and then go to a different one. In the previous scenes, they seemed like they were always hitting to the head. Now she's hitting to the torso and the body. This is more of a kind of, I guess, the K-drama love scene. She's actually showing fencing to her crush, you recall, a boy. And what he's doing is very similar to what a first-timer does with fencing. They, instead of going to the body, they just kind of whack and wiggle at the blade instead of really going for a target. What he's doing is, you know, what I see a lot from newcomers. So I love the fact that they kind of depicted a very similar thing when someone first starts fencing. So yeah, there's times that when you see someone fence for the first time or do fencing movement, that you say, oh, she or he might be really good at fencing if they actually put time and effort into training. One is obviously the athletic ability in terms of not being strong or fast, but being able to move in that position, right, laterally, being quick on your feet, changing directions. Another main one is sense of distance with your opponent, and when to close in on your opponent, when to stay away. Another key thing is not fearing of getting hit or hitting someone. You know, people tend to start fencing, they grab a sword, right? And they're scared to hit the person because a lot of times when you try to hit them, you're gonna get hit. And so when you hit, people tend to do this. They lean back, try to not get hit and just try to reach your arm. But you're not gonna have an effective attack. Sometimes when I see someone who are fearless and they know they're not gonna get hit because they have the proper equipment, and they just go full out attack, and they'll hit the person, they also get hit, but they don't care because they got the point. That's something, you know, it's rare to see, but you see it happen. It's like, wow, they already have the right mindset of what fencing is, you know. And so in the show, you know, it's a Korean drama show, so I'm sure they've taught the actresses and actors are taught fencing through Korean fencers or coaches. So actually the fencing movement is very similar to Korean style, which is kind of cool to see. Every country has different styles, you can say, and everyone fences a little bit differently. And in the show, it's very much of a Korean style, which is not a bad thing. I think they fence very pretty, beautiful way, but it's a little bit different from how I fence. Again, I have to emphasize the movement of the fencing is quite accurate. You know, she's moving forward, changing speed, hitting the blade. She missed her attack, which was kind of a weak attack. But on defense, in other shows, if someone's on defense, they're just kind of moving back. They're not doing anything. But here, she's actually in fencing position, moving her blade around throwing feints with their legs, like body feints, which is what we do a lot. You know, you want to throw some fakes in to make your opponent uncomfortable, maybe trigger their attack early. You can say you're almost watching real fencing.
Do you think actually like the actresses are doing, or there's someone else under the mask?
That's a good question. I think it's her that's doing the movements. You know, I hope she took time to learn fencing and understand the sport. If she actually learned it to move like that, that's pretty impressive. She must have done at least, I don't know, a few months, a year fencing movement to understand it. The referee, he says attack, and he did the right arm gesture, but he didn't really say in terms of the vocabulary. He should have said attack on preparation, attack left, or attack right, point. But the point itself, I have to rewatch it again, because he called it differently than I would call it. Oh, actually, he actually called it right. It's very tough to see. In the scene, it looks like they both hit, and you think it's a tie, but the person on the left, very small, she held her arm a little bit. It's a tough call. And after a point, you know, she threw her mask, screamed. You know, you're not really supposed to throw your mask, but usually when in a tense match like this, and maybe it seems like it's in the final, you win. It's more so okay as long as you don't throw your mask too far. You just throw it down on the ground and you scream a lot. Very much fencing-like culture. You know? Very cool that they depicted that it happens. So far, just this show is depicting fencing very accurately in terms of movement and the rules, and actually calling the points. The intensity too, I very much like. Do I know what's going on in their love life thing? I have no idea. Maybe I'll do that for the next video or something. Rating their love scenes. And so that wraps up my reaction to 25-21 K-drama show about fencing. I was actually very impressed in terms of how they depicted fencing, and in terms of the movements, the rules, the intensity. It was actually one of the best fencing shows or movies that I've seen. Yeah, hopefully you guys like the show and then get into fencing, and people get interested in the sport of fencing, try it out. That's really cool for me. So hopefully I see people I know in the Korean team participate in the show. I'm looking forward to that, if they ever show up like a special guest. But anyway, if you have any shows or movies that I should react to, comment down below. I'd love to see it and react to it. But yeah, salute. See you next time.